where we talk about all things pop culture. I'm Josh.
And I'm AJ. Josh, we made it. Another week.
And another one above the ground.
Above the ground, man. How have you been? How was your Labor Day?
It was crazy, dude. Let's see. Saturday, I went to the Renaissance Fair.
Yeah. How was that?
It was a lot of fun, as always. Did a lot of walking.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then Sunday I went to Starved Rock. So
dang, you had a whole weekend.
10 miles, yeah. And then Monday, did a little barbecue with lots of Mexicans. So there was a lot of tequila. So I'm tired.
When I lived in Chicago, do you remember how many times you tried to get me to go to the Renaissance Fair?
Yeah.
I was always like, the what fair? I was like, what do you do there? And you're like, you just eat food. I'm like, that's it? And you're like, it's more for the atmosphere. I'm like, what atmosphere? I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I've converted other people, got new people to check it out. So, yeah.
I had a friend who actually told me he went. He's like, I've always wanted to go to the Renaissance Fair, and he dragged his whole family to the Renaissance Fair this past weekend. It was really funny. Nice,
dude. Yeah. So it was a packed weekend. How about yourself? What did you do?
Oh man, I went on a quest this weekend, man. I did a whole quest. I got a text message from my boss at like 7 a.m. while I was walking. I go for a walk every morning, and I got a text message, and he's like, "Hey man," he's like, "I have a question." He's like, "Is this liquor store like next to you?" And I'm like, "That's a specific request." I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" Now, for those who don't know, my office is actually in Colorado, even though I'm in Houston. My boss was like, "Yeah, I've been looking for this bottle of tequila," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." I mean, I'm thinking like, all right, whatever. And he's like, here's the bottle. The store next to you says they have a bunch in stock. He's like, just go in there whenever you can this weekend. You can just grab one. That'd be great. I'm thinking, say less. Like, whatever. Pop in, grab a bottle of tequila. Whatever, right? Little did I know how elusive this bottle of tequila was, okay? My wife and I, we went to like 4 or 5 like different liquor stores. And when I say liquor stores, I mean like in Texas, they got like big ones. So they're like depots, more like liquor depots. Okay. We went to like 4 or 5 of them and like couldn't find it. And so like after like the third one, I'm like, okay, what am I getting myself into? Because the website definitely said before I left before I started work on Friday, website definitely said they had like 6 in stock. I get there, the guy immediately was like, we don't have any. We don't have any variant. They have 3 variants for those who drink tequila. They got Blanco. They got, I can't remember the second one. It starts with an R.
Reposado or something?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm sure I'm butchering it. And Anejo. And Anejo is like the brown colored one normally. And so I'm like, you don't have any of them? He's like, no. And I'm like, all right. So then we're looking. And like, for those who don't know, I do have like a little bit of a like compulsive like impulse disorder. Like if you tell me I can't get something, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna do it. Like it's just, I don't know. It's a bad it's an expensive flaw. But so we spent all weekend looking for this bottle, and we finally hunted it down. We got to this big liquor depot in Texas called Total Wine. Shout out to Total Wine. It was amazing. But we got there. Before we got there, we actually called and someone told us like, yeah, we have them. I'm like, okay. So we get there, and then they have like different like managers for different sections. And the tequila lady's like, no, we don't have that. She's like, we haven't had this. She's like, we haven't had this in weeks. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I just drove halfway across Houston. I'm like, we don't even live anywhere near here. I was like, and my wife was like, no. We called. Somebody said it was here. Lied. And so the lady, she chirped on her little walkie. She looked on her on the little inventory. She's like, you know what? I think it actually is here. And she made a little chirpy. She stepped away. She came back. She's like, it's actually in the truck. I'm like, what? And she's like, we're going to go grab it. So I was like, hold on, grab 2, because damn it, I went through all of this. I'm going to have some of this damn tequila. It was a bottle of Fortaleza Anejo. Apparently like, it's really, really, really good tequila.
Okay.
So I mean, damn it. I went so far. I grabbed 2. I texted my boss. I said, the mission is complete. It was quite the quest. Very fitting for our episode today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, wait. The big question. The big question. Did
Yeah.
you try it?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Without like flexing on our viewers, it's a little expensive.
Okay.
So at this point, I'm like, do I open it? I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like I don't want to just drink it
Oh,
just for
okay.
any reason, but at the same time, I'm like I really want to know what it tastes like because
Yeah,
this must be really good. My boss tells me it's really really good and it's really difficult to track down apparently. So
yeah. You save it for your
yeah,
daughter's quince. All
yeah. Next time you guys swing to Houston, you guys get to try this special elixirs. You tell
right.
me if it was worth it.
All
Yeah,
right. All
man.
right. Well,
Yeah,
in the spirit of quest, let's travel through the streaming wars to the latest contender,
do.
Amazon's Rings of Power.
Yeah. It's like Super Smash Brothers. Amazon has entered the fight.
Yeah, yeah, dude. They and they came in swinging. We talked about how much money they threw down on this.
Oh yeah,
What's your exposure and level of fandom with Lord of the Rings?
man. Okay, so before our listeners who do listen, like crucify me, I don't dislike Lord of the Rings. I think it's pretty cool. It just never grabbed me. Like I never got into it. And I tried. You know, I watched the original trilogy, the Peter Jackson films, the extended
Yeah.
editions. But I haven't watched those in like 15 years. I think I watched the first Hobbit. I can barely remember any scenes. I don't think I watched the other two. And now I hear there's like extended editions of those.
Oh,
There's
geez.
a there's a lot of Lord of the Rings. I think the most fun I've had Lord of the Rings is the or the Mordor series,
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
Shadow
yeah,
Mordor series.
yeah.
I really enjoyed that. But then one of the downsides of playing that is I don't know what's happening. Like I don't know who these people are. I can't remember. Look, all I remember about Lord of the Rings is that there's a ring and it's got like powers or something, and it has to be destroyed. And
Okay.
then Gandalf dies, but then he's like, "Psych, I'm back." And I'm stronger than ever. That's all I remember from. That's it.
Yeah,
That's all I
yeah.
remember from Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
So you know, I want to like it more. I don't know. I just haven't.
That's I think that's a good place to be because I'm a moderate fan. I mean, there's people who like they know every like Stephen Colbert. He knows like all the maps
Yeah,
and the lineages, whatever that word is, family trees and
yeah,
all that stuff. Where I'm like, I know this character and that this thing happened. Whereas for you,
right.
you're like, there's a wizard and a ring. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think we're in a happy middle ground.
yeah,
Again, I feel like a lot of listeners who are on the fence about checking this thing out, they're probably like, I don't know what this is, what it's about. I
yeah,
watched Lord of the Rings when I was 15, and that was it.
yeah. Also, I think the other thing that probably I don't want to say hurts the show, but makes it hard is that the fandom for Lord of the Rings is so strong. You know what I mean? People love Lord of the Rings. You know, a lot of my
Yes.
coworkers, they're like die-hard Lord of the Rings. One of my friends was trying to explain me the timeline that the show takes place in. I couldn't repeat a sentence. I
Yeah.
couldn't repeat
Yeah.
a character. I was like, and he spent like 45 minutes explaining it, and it sounded interesting. Don't get me wrong, it sounded cool. Don't know what's happening.
Yeah. You know what? That's kind of how I felt when you explained what's that game called?
Oh,
That
Destiny? I
Destiny.
know.
That
Every
same thing.
time.
I was like, okay, I
That's
think
a
I
good
get
point.
this.
That's a good point. Yeah. I mean,
And like that's not a bad thing. It
it's
just
not a
shows
bad
how
thing.
rich
Yeah,
the lore is and it's daunting.
exactly. And if there's ever, I mean, I'm forgetting the author of the actual books.
Tolkien,
Tolkien. Yeah.
biggest nerd ever.
Yeah. But I mean, talk about the king of lore. I mean,
Oh yeah.
this man writes books for his books and then
Dude,
books for his books for his books. Like, it's crazy.
well, it goes beyond that. He low key wrote the books just so that the languages he made up would have like a place.
Yeah, like
So it's like, dude,
he's like the template for all fantasy, like modern day fantasy. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, he's
Um,
definitely like the godfather of fantasy. And yeah, that brings us to today where we're watching a TV show about his works. It covers the second age. Lord of the Rings, the
mhm,
movies takes place during the third age. So in the second age, you have the rise of this empire called Numenor. You have the rise of Sauron, who's the big bad from Lord of the Rings. You have the big war between Sauron and the free people of Middle Earth. And you know that opening scene in Lord of the Rings where you see like that's that huge battle and Sauron gets
Yes.
defeated. So that's the
Yeah.
end of the second age.
So that is in theory the end of this show,
Technically, yeah, yeah, depending on how far they want to take it.
depending on how far they go. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the time period this is going to cover. What's super interesting though is Amazon does not actually have rights to the Silmarillion where most of this stuff material is found. They
Oh
only
yeah, I
have
heard about
rights
this.
to The Hobbit, the 3 Lord of the Rings books, which is technically one book, and the appendices. So anything that's mentioned within those works they can use, but if it's mentioned only in the Silmarillion, they can't use it.
Is there a reason why?
The Tolkien estate is like so nitpicky about what they let people use and adapt. That's why there's not a lot of Lord
Okay.
of the Rings content out there. I mean, look at
Yeah.
Star Wars; it's slapped on everything.
That's
The
slept.
Tolkien estate, they're like, nah, man, this is a
No,
hot commodity.
I get it. No, I get it. I think it's kind of like they understand the climate we live in, where
Yeah,
everyone's looking for this big IP to make spin-offs and spin-offs, and I think that they, I think it's just respect. The Tolkien estate, they just have
yeah,
respect for Tolkien's work, and so I think that's what it comes out of, really.
yeah. So, and to the hardcore fans or like someone in the middle, for me, that's why there's certain moments where you're like, this doesn't make sense. Like, where's this character at?
Yeah.
Because they don't have the rights to it, which is so interesting. Like, and like I can't imagine how tedious it was for the lawyers to be like, you can use this, you can't use that, you can use this, you can't
Yeah.
use that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, let's dive in. There's multiple storylines woven into this narrative. It's kind of has like Game of Thrones feel where you have all these new characters you're being introduced to. Didn't feel quite as daunting to me, but it could be because I'm familiar with a lot of these characters. I don't know how you felt.
It wasn't daunting. It was just more along the lines of like, it took me a minute to put together that Galadriel was Kate Blanchett's
Yes.
Galadriel,
Yeah.
and that who's the other character? Elrond.
All
Elrond
around.
was I'm gonna call him Mr. Smith because I can't remember his name.
Hugo Weaving.
But yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, Hugo Weaving. Yeah, I took me a minute to put those together. Those were the characters.
Okay.
So like I didn't realize that like the second age was like, so let me backtrack. I didn't realize they lived that long. Let me put it that way.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
I didn't realize they lived that long. So I was like, oh, I was like, that's interesting. Okay. All right.
Dude. Yeah. By the time Lord of the Rings hits, Galadriel is
Yeah.
like, she is very, very old by that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. I can see that now. So I'm like, okay, so this is, at least I do know some characters.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like any of the characters introduced was too exhausting. I felt
Okay.
like it paced. I felt like I personally felt like it paced the way it introduced
Yeah.
like the characters. I felt like it paced it in an okay way. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah. And like, this isn't in my notes, the top of the head. I just remember this, the intro. Like you see the two trees.
Yeah.
And so they don't explain it too much because I think it's more detailed in the Silmarillion, so probably legally they couldn't. But before there was a sun and moon in Middle Earth, there were these two trees, and that's what gave off light.
Life.
And
Yeah.
Morgoth, Melkor, he's basically kind of like the Satan figure in Tolkien's mythology.
Okay.
He gets jealous, and him and Shelob's great whatever grandmother Ungoliant kill the trees,
Yeah.
and so that's what you see happening at the beginning. And so, and like that's how old Galadriel is. Like she lived in a
Oh
world
my
before there was a
goodness.
sun and a moon.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So like
Okay.
she has
See,
seen some things.
I would have never known that. That's cool. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So like
All
to you,
right.
you're like, oh, that's interesting. But to me, I'm like, whoa, no way. But
Okay.
they like don't like fully show it, and I think it's because legally they couldn't.
Right. And I think that's okay. I think, I know this show has gotten like a lot of grief already. That's why 2
Mm-hmm.
episodes in. I watched some like reviews before I even watched the show, and
Yeah.
I went in expecting to watch like some of like the worst TV I've ever watched.
Game of Thrones final season.
No, it was fine. It was fine. And I kind of
Yeah.
realized, I'm like, you know what? This show is made for people like me and you, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We can argue about whether that's a good or bad thing, but it is made for people who don't know every molecule of data there is to know about about Lord of the Rings. Like it's
Right.
made just to like, I don't want to say like general enjoyment, because I think there is a certain level you have to buy in to watch
Right.
something like this. But at the same time, I feel like you don't have to know all the things that you probably see when you're watching. I think that's kind of the goal. Like if you are interested, go find out, and then it gives it better context. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah. Like we get a couple storylines. Galadriel feels like she's arguably the main character of the series.
yeah.
Like if that continues on, and basically what has happened is her brother Finrod was killed by Sauron, and
Mm-hmm.
she goes on this revenge quest to hunt down Sauron, which based on like what's in the source material and what you see in Lord of the Rings, it feels a little out of character for her. It feels like they kind of drew more from her uncle Feanor, who is this crazy character in the Silmarillion. People should check him out. Um, and what was interesting is her brother died to save a human named Baron, who's from the story of Baron and Luthien, which is arguably, in my opinion, the best love story ever told. It's
Mm.
semi autobiographical of Tolkien's life, and it's phenomenal. And so she's on this crazy quest, and she's got her little party. They go up north where it's super cold. Um, Maybe that was Morgoth's old castle. Again, legally, I don't think they could say what it was.
Okay.
And so after this quest ends, she gets rewarded, quote unquote, rewarded with a trip to the Undying Lands, which I don't know like how much you know about that.
So I figured that because okay, don't make fun of me, people, but I've played like God of War and stuff like that. So I figured it was like this nod to some type of this either Greek or Roman mythology. It's where they go to die, essentially, right? It's their heaven,
So so
essentially, right?
so well, elves don't
It's kind of
die.
like right. It's kind of like the opposite of like what in not in like Norse mythology, like what hell is, where
Okay,
it's like
okay,
like it's like you go there to exist, or even Valhalla, like you go there to exist in
yeah.
another life, but you don't have the responsibilities of being in the quote unquote real world. Basically, that's what I figured it
Yeah,
was.
yeah, and like what's a big theme for elves, and a lot of people might not know this. They're immortal, but that means that they experience the world dying around them every day.
Yeah,
The world
yeah,
changes, and so like to them, they're like watching the world decay, and then they get to go to this place where nothing is dying anymore. And so that's her
interesting.
reward, but she doesn't want to go. She's kind of being
Yeah.
forced to go because they're like, "You need to settle down. You're causing too much trouble."
Mm.
And then she decides to jump ship, literally,
Mm. Literally, yeah.
which
That was
I don't
I mean
I
that
don't know how
that
good
that
of a
was a
swimmer
cool
you are.
scene. No, but
It
I
was
mean
a
that
cool
was a cool
scene. Cool
scene.
scene, yeah.
I thought it was very impactful. I thought it showed that like this is what is driving her to the point where she's like, I cannot rest till I
Yeah.
know Sauron is dead. And even though there's a lot of things they can't use, it does give context to why she's still there in the third age, right? I
Yeah,
mean, when you
true,
think
true.
about it, it gives a little context to that. She's like, this is my life's work. This is my life's mission. I have to see it through. She's no quitter. So I don't know. I thought that was cool. I thought it was kind of bogus that I'm like, they're just sending her off to die. I mean, they're painting it as like a nice thing, but
Yeah.
literally they're like, all right, well, she's gonna die. So I don't know. I thought that was an interesting way to show that.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it shows a little bit of like a political intrigue that was probably lacking in Lord of the Rings, and I think is a big critique from like George R. R. Martin and Game of Thrones fans that there's no politics in Lord of the Rings. So I think
yeah,
that's kind of their way of being like, ooh, like she's
there
being
are.
finessed into this.
Yeah,
And again, it's not like they're trying to like literally kill her or do anything bad. They're just like, hey, you need to go away. And technically, it's a
yeah,
good thing for her.
yeah.
She jumps ship, and then in the second episode, she gets picked up by some castaways who apparently they're running from this thing called the worm, which is like a sea monster. And then um, more bad stuff happens, and then there's a new character that kind of
Hmm.
pops up at the end. We don't know who that is. The theory I've heard that I most favor is that it's Elendil, which is Aragorn's like great great great
Great,
great
great, 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 great. I
grandfather.
figured. I figured that's what it. I had a feeling. That's what it is. And I feel like what we are witnessing in this show is the first formation of a fellowship. I think that's what
Ah,
is strongly being alluded to here, because I feel like all these seemingly unrelated plot lines will lead to the formation of a fellowship. I don't remember a lot from Lord of the Rings, but doesn't Galadriel have a big hand in the formation of the fellowship
Oh
that we
yeah,
know? Okay,
yeah.
so I feel like this is the precursor to that, and why
Mhm.
she knows that that would work, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and oh, go on.
no, I mean that's my
Okay.
theory, at least. Yeah.
Okay. No, that I hadn't thought about that. And that brings us to the next character, Elrond, who also has a huge role to play in
Yes.
creating the Fellowship. And at this
Yes.
point, he's not, Lord Elrond of Rivendell. He's a diplomat.
Yeah.
They call him a politician, which feels a little weird, but he kind of is.
Yeah.
He's a
That's
diplomat.
what he is. Yeah. He's an ambassador.
Yeah, for the High King
Yeah.
Gil-galad, and he eventually gets sent to work with Celebrimbor, who I don't know. You might not know this, AJ. Actually, you
Oh
might
no, hold on,
from
because I
Rings of
played the games,
yeah, Shadow of
right?
Mordor. You
Yeah,
know
yeah.
this,
Because
okay?
I was like,
Who's
I know
Celebrimbor?
this guy. Well, okay, I don't remember, but he's
Okay.
not a good dude, right?
No, he is. He just kind of makes some
He's
really,
like,
really poor
he makes some
choices.
really ethically bad decisions, right? Yeah, yeah.
But what's he known for? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember.
So there's gonna be spoilers. Just FYI, in case you
It's only two
people didn't know
episodes.
this.
Yeah,
Just FYI,
yeah.
he's the one that creates the Rings of Power.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, all right, all right.
So
Now,
he is a very little known character by most Lord of the Rings fans, but he probably is like one of the most impactful characters in the
I
whole
mean,
thing.
he's the reason we're here. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's
yeah,
pretty cool.
Elrond gets sent to help him with some unknown project, and he wants to create a new forge. He wants to create something with great power. Like I said, the elves have to watch creation die around them because they're so
Yeah,
old, and so he wants to kind of preserve what he feels like his people are losing. So like his
yeah,
intentions are pure. Like
yeah,
he's just trying to help his people, and he wants to create a new forge to make something of power.
yeah.
And then Elrond gets this idea to go ask the dwarves.
Yeah, the dwarves. We meet the dwarves. One last note on Celebrimbor, real quick, is that I like. I hope they're using the character that we, because in the Shadows of Mordor games, all that stuff is revealed. Like, I think at the end of at the end of the first game or the second game. Like, a lot of this information we don't really
Yeah.
know why he's like his soul is essentially trapped in Middle Earth. You know what I mean? And
Right,
so,
right.
and you kind of learn that, like, he's kind of an ass. I don't know how else to explain it. Like in the games, at least, like he wasn't. You could tell that, like, he will do whatever he thinks is right, regardless of what that looks like. And
Yeah.
so, I hope that I feel like they're kind of alluding to some of that here. So I think that's
Okay.
cool. I think that's kind of cool.
Do they show? Actually, I think it's him. Do they show what happens to him after he dies in the game? I never finished the game, by the way.
You mean like how he gets, essentially his soul gets trapped?
Well,
Is that
what
you're
they
saying?
so some I believe it's him has a real bad day. They kill him and his family,
Yes,
and then
yes, they do show
they
that.
like hang up his body on a banner and use it to march around.
Yes, yes, they do.
Oh, they
Yeah,
do,
yeah.
dude. Yeah, it's
That's a
brutal,
cutscene. Yeah, that's a cutscene.
brutal, man. He does not. He has a very bad day up ahead for him. Um, just yeah, but yeah. So Elrond goes to Khazad-dûm, which we see in the Fellowship of the Ring. It's where the Balrog kills Gandalf.
Okay.
So we get to see what it looks like back in its heyday,
Yeah,
and he wants to go talk to his friend Durin the Fourth. And this scene was amazing. I loved
it
seeing
was
the
good.
dwarf culture because we only really saw
Yeah.
Gimli and a couple other dwarves in the
No, it was
Fellowship.
fun. Yeah, that was. I like this scene a lot.
Yeah, and it's just like their city looks amazing.
Yeah, not only their city looks amazing, but I love the dwarves in this world. They're like, they're, I don't know. I love that the grudge, because
Yeah,
Elrond is there to essentially ask for their help in assembling this. I think a forge, right? That's what they're trying to essentially build,
yeah,
some
yeah,
type of forge. And so, but Durin is mad because, like you said earlier, elves experience time really differently than everyone else in Middle Earth. And so, to Elrond, he thinks it's like, oh, it's been like a week or two since he's last seen Durin, but to Durin, it's been 20 years. So he's like pissed. He's like, you missed my wedding. You missed the birth of both my kids. I thought we were friends. And he's like,
yeah.
my bad. So, it's funny. I like the dwarves. They're funny.
It
They're funny
it was
characters.
heartfelt too, though. It was kind of sad.
Yeah, it is sad.
You're like
He
he's
feels
actually
betrayed.
hurt. Yeah.
He feels betrayed by his friend, and it makes it worse because from Elrond's perspective, like we said, like it's just been a little bit, but
Right.
to him is like, you can tell that he thought he was forgotten, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense. And
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
that's the
Exactly.
frustration. Yeah. So I like that dynamic. I think that's going to play a very critical role as we go on the show. So
Yeah. And then his wife Nisa, she
mhm.
was so much fun.
She
So
was
much
fun.
fun. I don't know the
That
actor's name that plays her, but phenomenal.
everything about being in the little dwarf city was cool. I like
Yeah.
that. It was like,
Yeah.
Wakanda for dwarves.
Yeah,
Like it was.
dude. Yeah. That's perfect. That is perfect.
Yeah,
Um,
it was cool.
my only nitpick was like I was kind of hoping she would have more of a beard because Gimli says dwarven women look kind of like the
Okay,
men.
I watched a video. I will try to find it, but that's a Peter Jackson joke. That's not canon. That's not canon. That's a Peter
Really?
Jackson. Yeah, that's a
I didn't
Peter
see. I didn't know
Jackson.
that.
That's a Peter Jackson exclusive. That's something I do
What?
know. That's right.
Okay,
See,
I didn't know
I
that.
can nerd out. I can nerd out too, baby. No,
Nice.
that's not canon.
Okay.
That is definitely just a joke Peter Jackson put
Oh, that's amazing.
in the film.
That
So
changes
yeah,
everything.
yeah. You'll see a lot of that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, actually,
Mhm.
that brings to mind something else that we'll talk about later about like what's
Mhm.
canon versus what people perceive as canon.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, the dwarven thing, the dwarf city was really cool. And speaking of little people, we get introduced to the Harfoots, which are like a hobbit
Are those the
ancestor.
hobbits?
They're like one of the ancestors of the hobbits.
Okay, because they're like dirty. They're like
Yeah.
I'm like, are they nomad? Like they don't wash. They're like
They are nomads, and like that becomes
okay.
like a point of tension later on.
So
Um,
are the hobbits that we know, are they here?
Not
Or do
yet.
they not
Well, you have to remember
exist?
this is like like way, way, way before Lord of the Rings. So like eventually,
Okay.
like these people and some other people will become what we know as the hobbits, and then they'll
Okay.
like become like more like they settle down and build houses and stuff.
Okay. I was just a little confused. I'm like, who are these people? What's happening here?
Yeah, and our main
Harfoots. Okay.
character is Eleanor Brandyfoot, which
Okay.
sounds a little bit like Brandy Buck, which is one of it's Mary's family.
Okay. I don't know what
So
that is.
she's probably and technically Frodo too. You know, Merry and
Okay.
Pippin, the hobbits.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, yes, I
Yeah,
do know. Okay.
yeah. So
I got you.
she's
I'm
like
not.
one of their ancestors. Oh, and what's really interesting, and this is a point of contention, is if throughout the series, like the casting,
Yeah.
apparently the Harfoots were described by Tolkien as being browner of skin,
Oh, okay.
which a lot of people were upset by some of the casting because there's people of color in this.
Yeah.
But then Tolkien himself said the Harfoots have darker skin. So it's like,
I mean, I just don't understand. We go through this every time, whether it's
yep,
like
yep,
no matter what the fantasy thing, your point of contention in a world with elves and orcs and little people and talking trees and dragons is that some of them are black. That's the point of contention. You know what? We could talk about that all day.
Well, and you
But
know what? They would
yeah,
argue that's not the problem, but it's like if you're that upset, that is the
yeah,
problem.
that is the problem.
You just
But
won't admit it.
I did have a question. I did have a question. So we meet. How do you say her name? They called her something. Was it Nori? Was that what they called her? Or
Nori
she had
wasn't, and her friend.
oh, that was her friend. Okay. So basically like they find the meteor like comes down from the sky and
Meteor
crashes.
Man, yeah.
Meteor Man, yeah, or Rocket Man if you're an Elton John fan, and crashes and it's a dude. Now, I don't know my lore, but that's Gandalf, right?
See that? Okay, that's the big
Is that
question.
is
That's the
that maybe
million.
Gandalf?
That's what people myself think it could be. Because the Astari did come to Middle Earth. That's the name for the wizards during the Second Age,
Okay.
and it's a bearded old man came from the west. So
Yeah.
pretty good chance it's Gandalf, maybe Saruman. I don't think it's Radagast, or it could be the Blue Wizards. Who I don't know if you even know who the Blue Wizards are.
Nah, man.
So the Blue Wizards were two wizards who kind of went MIA. And
Oh wait,
Tolkien kind
I
of
did hear something about this. Never
okay.
mind.
They're,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
never you never see them in Lord of the Rings. They're mentioned
yeah,
maybe once,
yeah.
and yeah, they kind of went MIA on their mission. They were sent by Tolkien's version of God to kind of help out fight Sauron. And initially they failed, but then Tolkien went and rewrote it where they did a lot of like espionage type of stuff and raising armies
Sure,
and whatnot.
sure.
Very much like Shadow of Mordor type of stuff. They were like kind of pulling the strings behind that kind of a thing. So yeah, it's either them, one of them, or Gandalf. I'm leaning towards Gandalf.
I feel like thematically, this is a baby Gandalf here. We're
Yeah,
dealing
and,
with a
yeah,
child Gandalf, and now, mind you, he's not a child. I'm calling him a child because he doesn't seem to be able to
communicate.
process
Yeah,
words or anything, and he's kind of feral. To be
he's
quite
very
honest with
powerful
you,
still.
yeah, very still powerful, but he has no. Like you could tell, he doesn't know how to control it. So I'm like, okay, this is baby Gandalf. But this
Right.
would, but I mean, this has to make sense, right? I mean, like this is like you know Promethean hobbits here. Like I mean, come on, it makes sense, right?
Well, the Gandalf and hobbits are tight. Like
Yeah,
he loves the
they're
Shire. He loves
BFFs.
hobbits.
He's
So
like
it makes
hobbits.
sense.
We go way back. Yeah, exactly.
Literally, yeah. And
Literally, yeah.
he says something I think in Quenya that translates either to what is fire, meaning like where Sauron, or blessed fire, which Gandalf tells the Balrog, "I'm the servant of the sacred fire," which is like the essence of creation.
Sure.
So again, kind of hinting if it's the second one that it is Gandalf.
I would be shocked if it wasn't. I'll be honest with you.
And also
I
because
would be.
like it'd
I'd be
be too
pretty
risky
shocked.
not to make him Gandalf. Like they want to play it safe, probably.
Right, but I also think, I mean, like I said, I think Gandalf is a fun character. So
Hmm.
I feel like the Hobbits and Gandalf's character, if this is Gandalf, I think it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? I don't know. He's the palate cleanser, so I think every show needs that. So I hope it's that.
right. And there's still high stakes because like you can tell like if he's not careful, like he's gonna hurt people,
Yeah,
which would be
yeah,
interesting to show like how Gandalf learned to like control himself and like he's like very tempered.
yeah,
Like he
yeah.
holds back. But speaking of
Yes.
fun characters, one of my favorites, who is an original character, is Elrondir.
Okay, original, like he's canon.
He's not canon. He like the Amazon like
Sorry,
team created
original.
him.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Now he is supposed to be like black Legolas, right?
basically. He's like
Okay,
Black Legolas but serious.
okay. Yeah, not a hint of humor in him. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Which is interesting
And
like to see cuz like elves kind of like joke around a lot in Lord of the Rings for
yeah,
little
they're
stuff.
not super serious people. Like even Galadriel, she's serious, but at the same time, like there are these moments where she can, I don't know,
She's
mellow
like
out a little
gentle
bit.
and soft, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Scary,
Whereas
very scary, but very
uh,
gentle.
yeah, this new character, he's pretty serious, but I guess it fits him well. It's not a caricature of seriousness. I think
Right.
he's one of these like
He's
duty driven
he's seen
characters, you
things, I
know?
think.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I have a question. So we meet. How do you say his name? How do you say his character's
I
name?
think it's Arondir.
Arandir. Okay, so we meet Arandir, right? And Arandir, you can tell that he really cares about humans. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
because like his whole kind of mini story that they're building is that the king of the elves is like, hey, we're gonna go. We're leaving Middle Earth, and so he doesn't want to go. You know, he's become attached. He's been watching this area for I think 80 years or something like that, 79 years,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so like he's become attached, and we find out that he's in love with a human woman. And I'm like, okay, this kid that she had, that's his son, right? Like, that's his son? It's gotta be
Uh
his son.
I don't think so.
I think it's his son.
Oh, that is interesting.
Because they made a comment later when they were in the barn stealing okay, before I continue on my theory there, the son of this woman, I can't remember the kid's name, but the son goes into a barn and steals a very evil looking sword that
Yeah.
has the mark of Sauron on it. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, you think this is what you need? But then I remember, like, I think Sauron's powers are supposed to be like tantalizing, like they're supposed to,
100%.
you know what I
He's
mean?
like a
So
great deceiver, yeah.
yeah, so I think that's what that was supposed to symbolize. Because I was kind of mad at first. I was like, "What are you doing? Like that's
Yeah.
clearly evil." But anyways, but yeah, the only reason why I say that is because in that scene, the kid is teasing him, being like, "You don't even know where your dad is. You don't know who your dad is," and he gets all mad. And I'm like, "He's half elf, right? Like that's his dad." right? I mean,
That
that's
is
got to be his dad.
interesting. I didn't think
That-
about
If
that.
that's, if that's not his dad, whatever, shame on me. Or
Yeah.
maybe if it's not his dad, maybe the reason he cares for this woman so much is because like she was with a different elf and he kind of like swore to protect her and this kid. I don't know,
What
but
if he
there's
killed her
a
husband?
reason. That could be another thing too, because I think in the second episode, she's basically saying like, these are my people, and he doesn't have the same. I don't know how to explain it. He cares for humans, but it, after the service of doing a duty, if that makes any sense.
Right. Well, and
So,
there's
yeah.
something I don't know if you picked up on this. That area is, I believe, is going to one day become part of Mordor.
Really?
I believe so. But one thing I
Ah,
do know for sure is that area, those people, their ancestors sided with Melkor, Morgoth, Sauron's master. So
okay,
there's
okay.
this like tension, distrust between the elves and those people.
Which which would make sense because again, they found that sword, the broken sword, in one of
Right,
the
right.
barns of the people. I mean, obviously that. I mean, I kind of picked up that like some of these people here are at the bare minimum servants of Sauron. So, um, and also, the show's been really alluding to the fact that there are orcs, and they seem to be a stronger threat
Yeah.
in this age than they're still a threat in the third age, the Lord of the Rings story, but they seem to be more dangerous. I don't know why. I don't know why I get that
Yeah.
feeling. I
Well,
don't know.
it's either because like this is like a quote unquote like fresher breed of orcs, like you know, like it's not like a diluted stock type of thing, or it could be
Yeah,
because it's trying to show how in Lord of the Rings these are like Aragorn and Legolas are some of the greatest warriors, whereas
yeah.
like the people in this little village are just normal people. I don't know if it's trying to show that or if like they're just a different breed of orcs.
One of the things I really hope this show does is one of my favorite things in Shadow of Mordor is the Nemesis system.
Yeah.
Just really quick, like when you kill a commander orc, a different orc under their rank takes their spot. If the orc kills you in battle, he goes higher up in his rank, and then all of a sudden now like you have like a literal nemesis you have to try and fight. It's pretty cool. It's a cool system.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like about that is because I felt like it showed that orcs have like an actual personality. Like there's a hierarchy, there's order, but they also have like uh they have their own driver. Because I didn't
Yeah.
get that sense. It's been a long time since I watched Lord of the Rings, so I might be wrong here. But Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, the orcs seem a little mindless.
Yeah. No,
They
that's I think
just
that's fair.
kill, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I really hope that they show us some more intelligent orcs, some orcs that have their own reason for siding with Sauron. I think that would make the conflict between these two enemies so much more interesting. And maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's the reason why they're so much more dangerous because they're more intelligent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good good like
Good
hope
hope.
in
Yeah,
theory for where this is gonna go.
yeah.
Um, anything else? Final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, guys, let me tell you, this show is absolutely beautiful. I'm gonna die in this hill. This is more beautifully shot than the actual Lord of the Rings movies.
Whoa. Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
can you argue? Can you argue that though? I mean, mind you, it's like almost triple the budget, so you can see where the money goes. But the cinematography is bonkers, like absolutely crazy when you think about you're watching a TV show. You're not watching a
True.
movie.
True.
You're
Yeah, that's
watching a
true.
TV show.
Okay.
Like okay, here let me give you an example. Let me give you a comparison. Compare the effort put into this in comparison to like She-Hulk. Now I know it's not the same show, but the point is like when you watch the CGI on She-Hulk, you're like, yikes, this is rough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
The cinematography is, I mean, that scene when Galadriel's like basically about to meet her maker here, and she's like about to go into the thing.
Yeah.
That was a beautifully shot scene.
Yeah. For
The
sure.
scene with the orcs in the little orc cave thing, that was an incredibly structured and shot scene, and the
Yeah,
music
it was
is like,
scary.
yeah, it was scary, and the music is nuts, guys. The music is bonkers. Like they when it look, we may have. I think if I had to nitpick, I would say that like some parts in some of the episodes, I feel like some of the dialogue goes on a little too long. Like I
Okay.
feel like sometimes some of the characters, I don't want to say they're repeating themselves, but it doesn't seem like they're moving their conversation fast enough.
Yeah.
But that's like really like the only thing I would nitpick. Other than that, I mean, it's fun. I mean, that's the only way I could describe it. Like it's fun to see all these different areas of Middle Earth that maybe I don't know if we would ever gotten a chance to see. I haven't watched The Hobbit, so maybe we do see some of these places in The Hobbit, but at least in
Okay.
the original Lord of the Rings, like we don't get to see all of these places because our characters are going to a very specific location. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I felt like this is cool because we're seeing so much of Middle Earth, and it doesn't feel like sometimes I had to remember like, hey, they filmed this here on our planet. You know?
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. For myself, yeah, I'm hanging on to the bandwagon for this one. Like I said, I do have some concerns because of the lack of full legal rights to the source material. The practical effects, I think, look phenomenal. The costumes, the sets, the props look fantastic. The CGI is pretty decent. I'm a little worried it's not going to age well. And it's kind of like why the original Lord of the Rings was so engaging. There was so much practical effects. I'm a huge proponent of practical effects, so I hope we get to see more of that moving forward. The map transitions were really great because that kind of gives you perspective on where stuff is happening. It's really great for people like me who suck at map reading and like knowing where things are.
I really appreciated that because that's actually one of my bigger complaints with Lord of the Rings. I mean,
Yeah.
excuse me, I take that back. Not with Lord of the Rings, with Game of Thrones.
Okay.
That's one of my biggest complaints. Sometimes I'm like, where are we? Where? What direction are we in? Are we north?
Yeah.
Are we east? Where is this? To me, all of the world of Game of Thrones is one vertical line.
Yeah.
And we just go up and down too. So I really like the map transitions. Again, the show is made for people like me and you, who don't know too much. So I appreciated the map transitions. I'm like, oh, we're going east. Oh, okay. We're like even the beginning when they're telling us where the elves came from. They literally traveled the waters. I'm like, okay, that helps me understand what they mean when they say we got to go home. You know what I mean? It's like I get this. You know what I'm saying? Like it made sense.
Yeah, no, it was very cool. The characters in some instances felt like they were kind of forced into the narrative versus the narrative kind of fitting like each character. And again, I think
they had to build new narratives. Yeah.
And I think part of that is Tolkien's characters meshed with his narrative so well that if you try to create something original, it doesn't mesh quite as well. And like my biggest case, like point for that is Galadriel, where she seems like the main character, but honestly, she doesn't feel her story doesn't seem that engaging to me. It's the one I'm least interested in, which is unfortunate because like all the actors and like she's phenomenal. The person who plays Galadriel, she does a great job. But to me, her narrative just is the least engaging, and that could be because I have the bias of having read the Silmarillion, so I know like what quote unquote is supposed to happen.
Sure.
But whereas like Arondir is an original character, and he's probably like my favorite character. He's so interesting, very good looking dude. So good casting choice for that.
Some smoldering looks and piercing eyes. Man. That's crazy.
For real. Him and I think Bronwyn is her name. Like, dude, the tension, the chemistry. It's
just saying that little kid. That's his kid. Just telling you right now.
Yeah. So the performances are great. To me, it's just a matter of how the narrative goes. If other aspects can keep up, then I think I can be happy with this, and I'll watch the rest.
All right, man. Well, yeah, that's I think I agree with everything you said. And then one last note really is just, do you think my theory that Galadriel is unintentionally forming a precursor of a fellowship, do you think that changes your perspective on her storyline?
Yeah, like I hadn't thought about that before. If that is the case, that'll make it a lot more interesting. And to kind of add one other thing, if you watch the show, don't know anything about Lord of the Rings, and you're interested in it whatsoever, like check out the Silmarillion too. Like see like what the source material was really like, and then you can decide which one you like better. You can enjoy both of them, but maybe this is a way for people to check out something new.
All right, well, guys, that's our show. We'll definitely circle back. I think there's so much in this show. We could definitely circle back at the end of the season. Yeah, thank you guys for listening. We all really appreciate it. You guys can check out our podcast on any podcasting platform. So Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, the works. Even Zencaster now has a podcasting platform. You can also find us on all our social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, not Facebook, because Facebook is for our moms, and we don't do it for our moms, right? But yeah, guys, thank you very much. See you guys next time. Bye. The Bandwagon Fan Podcast is hosted by Josh Jimenez, Alex Margosa, and me, AJ Soy. Our show is produced by Kate Smith and edited by your boy, AJ. Our social media is managed by Natalia Kokulia, and our theme song, Lush Waves, is provided to us by Taylor Lewin of _audio. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.